Today, we're diving deep into the world of quality in medical device and pharmaceutical manufacturing. Specifically, we're talking about root cause analysis, or RCA. This is the detective work of figuring out exactly why something went wrong in a manufacturing process. Now, you might be thinking, why should I care about this? Well, RCA is crucial. It's the difference between slapping a Band-Aid on a problem and actually fixing it for good. But here's the thing. A lot of companies, even big ones, really struggle with getting RCA right. And that's what we're digging into today. The top 10 mistakes companies make when trying to find the root cause of a problem. We're talking about those head-scratching moments where a problem keeps popping up and you just can't figure out why. We've all been there. So whether you're a quality assurance expert, a manufacturing engineer, or just someone who wants to understand how to solve problems better, stick around. Let's figure out how to avoid these RCA pitfalls. All right, mistake number one is something I like to call the Band-Aid investigation. Imagine this. You got a leaky faucet. Do you just keep a bucket under it and call it a day? No way. You've got to find the source of the leak and fix it properly. That's what RCA is all about. Finding the root cause, not just slapping on a temporary fix. But sometimes, teams get so focused on addressing the immediate symptoms that they miss the bigger picture. They might be under pressure to get things back up and running, and they end up just treating the symptom instead of the disease. And you know what happens? The problem rears its ugly head again. It's like that whack-a-mole game. You push one problem down and another one pops right back up. This is why a superficial investigation is a recipe for disaster. It's like building something amazing but with a shaky foundation. It might look good at first, but it's not going to stand the test of time. So remember, taking shortcuts might seem tempting in the short term, but it always leads to more headaches down the road. Now imagine you're trying to solve a complex puzzle. Would you rather go at it alone, or would you want a team of people with different perspectives and expertise? Exactly. The same goes for RCA. Mistake number two is falling into the trap of the lone wolf approach. You've got one person, or maybe a small team, siloed away trying to crack the case. But here's the thing. Effective RCA requires a diverse set of eyes and brains. You need folks from different departments, manufacturing, quality, engineering, even suppliers, all working together. Think about it. Each department has its own unique understanding of the process. The engineers know the design inside and out. The manufacturing team sees how it all comes together on the line, and quality control is there to make sure everything meets the highest standards. When you bring all of these perspectives together, you create a knowledge powerhouse. It's like having all the right tools in your workshop. You wouldn't try to build a cabinet with just a hammer, would you? You need saws, screwdrivers, levels, the whole shebang. Collaboration is key to getting to the bottom of complex issues. So, you've got your team, you're ready to solve the problem, but you're approaching it like a free-form jazz improvisation session. You're just kind of winging it. That's mistake number three, failing to use structured RCA tools. Now, I love a good jam session as much as the next person, but when it comes to RCA, you need a clear framework. It's like having a recipe for a complex dish. Sure, you could try to throw something together, but if you want consistent, delicious results, you follow the recipe. There are tons of great RCA tools out there. The 5 Whys, fishbone diagrams, fault tree analysis, each with its own strengths. But the key is to choose the right tool for the job and use it consistently. Don't get me wrong, you don't want to get stuck in a rigid one-size-fits-all mentality either. Sometimes you might need to combine different tools or adapt them to your specific situation. The important thing is to have a structured approach that guides your investigation. All right, imagine a detective arriving at a crime scene, but instead of dusting for fingerprints and gathering evidence, they just pace around and make assumptions. Sounds ridiculous, right? Well, that's what it's like when you don't have enough data in your RCA. Mistake number 4 is inadequate data collection. It's like trying to navigate a maze in the dark. You need that data to light your path and guide you to the root cause. This means gathering all sorts of information, batch records, environmental conditions, equipment logs, even interviews with operators. And here's the thing. It's not just about collecting data, it's about analyzing it. Look for trends, patterns, and anything that stands out like a sore thumb. Use statistical analysis tools if you need to. Remember, data is your friend. It helps you separate fact from fiction and make informed decisions. Without solid data, you're just making guesses. And that's a recipe for repeating the same mistakes. You wouldn't believe how many times I've seen a problem written off as a one-time thing, only to rear its head again later. So, be thorough, be meticulous, and don't be afraid to get your hands dirty with data. Let's talk about human nature for a second. When something goes wrong, it's easy to point fingers. But in the world of RCA, playing the blame game is a recipe for disaster. That's mistake number 5, not addressing human factors. Now, I'm not saying that people can't make mistakes. We all do. But more often than not, human errors are symptoms of deeper systemic issues. Maybe the training wasn't adequate, the equipment was poorly designed, or there was pressure to cut corners. When you focus solely on blaming individuals, you miss the opportunity to uncover those underlying causes and prevent the same errors from happening again. It creates a culture of fear and silence, where people are afraid to speak up about problems or near misses. Instead, we need to shift our focus from blaming individuals to understanding the context in which those errors occurred. Ask yourself, what were the contributing factors? Was there adequate training? Were there clear procedures in place? By addressing the systemic issues, you create a safer, more reliable process. This next mistake is a bit of a brain teaser. It's like trying to solve a mystery, but you keep getting distracted by red herrings. This is mistake number 6. Inadequately distinguishing between root causes and contributing factors. Here's the thing. A root cause is the ultimate reason a problem occurred. It's the domino that, if you were to remove it, would prevent the entire chain of events from happening. Contributing factors, on the other hand, are like the other dominoes in the line. They contribute to the problem, but they're not the ultimate source. For example, let's say a batch of medication is rejected because it failed a purity test. A contributing factor might be that the wrong solvent was used during production, but the root cause might be a poorly labeled container in the chemical storage area. See the difference? Confusing these two can lead to ineffective corrective actions. You might address the solvent issue, but if the mislabeled container is still there, the problem can happen again. So, how do you avoid this trap? Ask why, relentlessly. Keep digging deeper until you get to the root of the problem. Let's say you've done your due diligence, you've identified the root cause, and you're ready to take action. But here's where things can go wrong. You implement a corrective action, but it's more about ticking a box than actually solving the problem. This is mistake number 7. Failure to implement corrective actions properly. It's like having a brilliant plan to build a rocket, but then using duct tape and chewing gum to hold it together. You need to make sure your corrective actions are robust, well-defined, and actually address the root cause. Don't fall into the trap of implementing vague or superficial solutions. Be specific. Instead of saying improve training, outline exactly what training needs to be done, who will conduct it, and how you'll measure its effectiveness. Remember, corrective action should be aimed at preventing the problem from ever happening again, not just putting a Band-Aid on it. Think long-term, think systematically, and think about how to build in safeguards to make sure the problem doesn't rear its ugly head again. All right, you've identified the root cause, implemented a solid corrective action, and everyone's patting themselves on the back. Job well done, right? Not so fast. This is where mistake number 8 comes in. Inadequate verification of effectiveness. It's like building a bridge and never going back to check if it's still standing. You can't just assume your corrective actions are working perfectly. You need to verify it. This means monitoring the situation, collecting data, and seeing if the problem has truly been resolved. Set up a system for tracking key metrics, and don't be afraid to go back and make adjustments if needed. Remember, RCA is an iterative process. It's about constantly learning and improving. This is where that data analysis comes in handy again. Look for trends, compare before and after data, and see if your corrective actions are having the desired effect. And here's a pro tip. Involve the people who are closest to the process, the operators, the technicians. They often have the best insights into what's working and what's not. Imagine trying to solve a puzzle, but you're only allowed to look at a few of the pieces. You might be able to force something together, but it's not going to be the full picture. That's what it's like when you fall into mistake number 9, not considering external factors. It's easy to get tunnel vision and focus solely on your internal processes. But in today's interconnected world, external factors can play a huge role in manufacturing issues. Think about your suppliers, raw material quality, even economic conditions. These can all impact your operations. For example, a sudden increase in defects might be traced back to a change in your raw material supplier, or a seemingly minor change in a supplier's manufacturing process could have ripple effects down your entire supply chain. The key here is to broaden your perspective. Don't be afraid to look beyond the walls of your own facility. Communicate with your suppliers, stay informed about industry trends, and consider the bigger picture. You might be surprised at what you uncover. We've reached the final mistake, and it's a big one: inadequate training and investigation skills. It's like having all the best tools in the world, but not knowing how to use them. You can have the most sophisticated RCA process on paper, but if your team isn't properly trained, it's all for nothing. RCA is not something you can just wing. It requires a specific set of skills: analytical thinking, problem-solving, communication, and the ability to facilitate effective group discussions. Don't underestimate the importance of investing in your team's development. Provide them with the training and resources they need to become RCA experts. And don't just make it a one-time thing. Offer refresher courses, share best practices, and create a culture of continuous learning. Remember, the more skilled your team is, the better equipped they'll be to identify root causes, implement effective corrective actions, and ultimately improve the quality of your products and processes. So, there you have it, the top 10 mistakes to avoid in root cause analysis. It's a lot to take in, but by understanding these pitfalls, you're already one step ahead. Remember, effective RCA is about more than just finding a quick fix. It's about building a culture of continuous improvement, where problems are seen as opportunities for learning and growth. By avoiding these common mistakes, companies can transform their approach to quality control. It's about moving away from blame and towards understanding, from reactive problem solving to proactive prevention. And when you get RCA right, the benefits are huge: improved product quality, increased efficiency, reduced costs, and a safer, more reliable manufacturing process. So go out there, channel your inner detective, and level up your RCA game. And contact Pathwise at pathwise.com to request training on root cause analysis for your team.